2, 1. Let's go. Our guest today is no stranger to numbers. She got bit with the problem solver's bug at a young age and has been hooked ever since. From solving practice problems in algebra and calculus classes through middle school and high school to the world of transaction advisory and business valuations, she's used her superpowers in problem solving and numeracy as a foundation for solving complex financial models, and more recently, telling stories with data. Ever since breaking into data, she's been in a constant state of the aha feeling for making sense of messiness. It's brought her joy while also motivating her to continuously seek new things to learn and problems to solve. She's got skills in Python, R, database management and querying, as well as data visualization tools such as Tableau and Power BI, and is currently performing product experimentation and developing reporting pipelines at Narrator. And if that wasn't impressive enough already, she is a LinkedIn learning instructor. She's got a course on LinkedIn learning called Choosing the Right Tool for Your Data, where she talks about when and where you should use Python, R, or SQL. Please help me in welcoming our guest today, a powerlifting, fashion blogging, self-help book reading data nerd, Megan Lieu. Megan, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be on the show today. I appreciate having you here.
Thank you, Harpreet. Oh my gosh, I have listened to enough of your episodes of this show to be like, I wonder what it'd be like to be on the receiving end of one of those intros. And I'm just like sitting there, I'm like, how does he know all this about me? And like I don't know how to react. I'm just like, I can't believe he's saying all these things about me. It doesn't even sound real. But thank you for having me.
Oh, dude, thank you. And you've listened to my podcast? I did not know that. I think that's so cool, man. Thank
No,
you.
for a
Thank you for
long time. Like I'm just when I am going to go through my podcast and I'm going to see like this new episode pop up on my feed with an Apple podcast, I'm going to be like, "Oh my God, that's my name there." It's going to be
oh,
wild.
dude. That's so cool, man. That's so cool. I did not know you're a listener. Well, thank you for listening, and I'm finally like glad to actually chat with you. We've been somewhat connected for the last couple months and a few months, maybe. It's been a long year, but we've been connected, and now I'm excited to get you onto the show to chat. So you've been into numbers since a very young age. Like, do you just remember like a moment? Like, what's one of your early memories with like numbers or like with math or whatever, where you're like, oh man, that's so cool. Like, do you have one of those early memories?
I think back to seventh grade. It was probably algebra. Yeah, algebra in middle school, and seventh grade was when I had a teacher who I just really clicked with, really made the subject so fun to learn. And I had no problem just staying on a single question for like hours and trying to figure out what was going on and trying to get to the bottom of it. And that was, yeah, that algebra class was so pivotal for me. And then, throughout high school, really enjoyed calculus as well. When I went to college, I think I kind of lost that. I knew I still identified as a math loving person, but I went down the path of taking business classes, and in my school, where I went to UVA, University of Virginia, as a business major, you're not really required to take anything super complex or go through the math curriculum very deeply. So in college, I kind of lost touch with my connection with numbers, and really the only numerical problems I was solving was in the context of like valuing companies or doing stock analyses, things like that, that didn't really require you to, I don't know, sit there in front of the numbers and like figure out how to manipulate them. And after college, went into finance, and again, math was not ever anything that I did. And then when I finally once I pivoted into data, was when I really got a taste of how it feels to really want to like get to the bottom of a complex question again. And there have been a lot of those aha moments where I was like, dang, I miss this. Like not even just solving the problem, but like very selfishly, it was a feeling that I was chasing that I hadn't felt in a long time. And I just enjoyed that feeling that I had internally to get to that answer. So yeah, it was a like a roundabout way to get back to that love.
Absolutely love that. That's a, following your own obsession is always a good thing to do, right? Like I've got one of those type of personalities where I just get obsessed about things and I just go down the rabbit hole, and like it looks like I'm working, but I'm like, I'm having so much fun. It feels like play. And I felt that
That's
way
the
with,
key.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, right. It looks like work to other people, but to you, it feels like you're playing. Very similar actually to my story. I studied business in undergrad as well. I went studied like economics. I was part of like some business fraternity as well, that Delta Sigma
same.
Pi. Yeah, which one were you?
Alpha Kappa Psi.
Okay, the other one. I was at Delta Sigma Pi. That was the
Okay,
one.
I'm not sure if that one was
Yeah.
at the University of Virginia, but yeah, I know that there are a bunch out there.
Yeah. And I lost touch with math in college as well. And it wasn't until I started teaching math to high school students that I got really back into it. But like the getting back into it part, man, like uh, it was rough because I felt like I was constantly just like, I felt like I just knew nothing, like I didn't know anything. And I just was just this feeling of like, oh shit, I'm never going to figure this out. How do I, do this?
Yeah.
Did you ever encounter those type of feelings? How did you overcome those, if you did?
Yeah, this time last year, I decided to take a linear algebra course and a calculus 2 course at my local community college. And that was my first time doing any like real math in probably 7 years. And I remember being in this class with these college kids who were like, oh, like this is so hard. Like, how am I supposed to balance this with my other classes? I'm like, why would you try balancing it with a full-time job? And it just felt so foreign to be sitting there taking notes and just being a sponge for the first time ever, and knowing that like what I was learning was not supposed to be for making money or for answering like a partner's question or anything like that. I was there just to learn. And it felt really foreign at first, but then I started getting into it. I specifically remember the linear algebra class. I really enjoyed that one where, we were getting deep into the more complex topics, and you really just had to sit there and be like just stare at the paper and ask it, like, how do I solve you? And I remembered that was the feeling that, 7 years ago was really what made me fall in love with math and problem solving for things I care about. And so I also, I think, to answer your question about like how did I get over those feelings, I obviously went to office hours, sucked up to the professor, and really tried to like get his understanding for why and how he was teaching the way that he did. And it was a hard semester, trying to balance that with work, but that was like my first time going back to school out, or like taking classes outside of college. And that was when I realized that this learning thing is actually kind of cool. If you had asked me fresh out of college if I would have ever considered going back to school or taking any classes, I would have been like, hell no, like I am done learning forever. And then like now when I think back to me even saying that I'm just done learning, it's absolutely preposterous to me. And who I was then fresh out of college versus who I am now is very different.
Yeah, I love that what you say to a problem when you encounter it. How do I solve you? How do I solve you, nasty
Yeah.
problem? Yeah. um it's very similar to my story. I didn't know we had so much in common, like parallels in story, right? Because when I graduated from my first undergrad, dude, I barely, dude, I was all through undergrad, I was just doing acid and shrooms and all sorts of
Oh my
hallucinogenics
God.
all through undergrad. Like I barely graduated. like barely. But got my, somehow managed to become like a substitute teacher, and then was teaching high school level math to these kids, and through that, that's where I
Mhm.
rediscovered my love for math. But then, dude, I had to go
Yeah.
back to community college. I had to start from like, because I was like, I'm gonna be an actuary, I'm gonna go to grad school, and I started taking math classes from like
That's exactly why I was doing it.
from like trigonometry all the way up until grad school, dude. It was wild. Yeah, I did 60 credits at the undergraduate
Yeah.
level, and it was just. I think for this reason is like one of the reasons why, to this day, like I just feel like I'm continuously an imposter in this field, because I had to go through that, because I wasn't like the ideal student,
Yeah.
getting out of, getting those great grades, and like, 27 years old, buying a house, or doing the stuff that I see all of you young kids doing, that I'm like, this is amazing to see. But this constant
Yeah.
feeling of imposter and being an imposter. But I'm wondering, like, somebody sitting out there, like, feeling this way, like feeling like they're being an imposter, what would you say to them? And to give us something from your story that might serve as some
Yeah.
inspiration.
I remember when I was first exploring the field of data, I had just one friend who was a data analyst. He was the only person I knew who was in the data field at all. And I was like, when this was when I was just starting to interview, and I had asked him, I was like, I feel like I shouldn't be here. Like how am I interviewing for these things when I don't have any experience at all? Like, how do you get over this feeling? And he was like, dude, I'm the biggest imposter of them all. I'm like fooling everybody around me. And I was like, wait, you feel this way too? And like, even when I catch up with him now, he still says the same thing. He's like, you think you're an imposter? I'm an even bigger imposter. And I was like, no, I can one up you. I'm an even bigger imposter than you. And so he was my very first connection into data. And I was like, he feels this way. And then I was connecting with a lot more people. They all feel this way. And it's like, you come to peace with the fact that I think everybody feels this way. Like, I don't think, maybe unless you're like a C-suite person, I don't know. I think everybody should have a healthy dose of imposter syndrome to act as like that fire under your butt to keep you going. If I like, I think that's the best ingredient, or that's the thing that you need to combat complacency. And imposter syndrome is not bad. Complacency is bad. And like, I think back to all the periods in my life where I was lost, or like, wasn't happy, or didn't know where I was going. It was because I was complacent and I didn't want for anything else. And that's when, my imposter syndrome was probably the least active, was the most quiet. But then when that imposter syndrome rears its ugly head again, it's like, oh, that fire is lit again. And I don't feel complacent. So it's like, I think there are two ends of this balance. It's like complacency or imposter syndrome. You don't want to be on either end, like to the extreme. But if you ask me, I would much rather be on the end towards imposter syndrome, where I believe that everybody else is doing better than me. Everybody else around me knows what they're doing, because at least to me, that means that I have some catching up to do. And I won't stop until I do catch up to at least those people who are immediately above me, that I see or think they know their shit. And then I'll catch up to them. And then there's going to be even more people that I feel like they know their shit even more. And then I have to catch up to them. So long story short, like, complacency is the worst thing ever, not imposter syndrome.
That's so goddamn, dude, giving me like taking me back to these times when I was a biostatistician, because literally the thought that was running through my head, because I was a biostatistician for a long time, like at that point, like I feel like I had no like ambition or drive to want to do better. I would literally think to myself, I could just skirt by this job and just like work here, and they'll probably never fire me. Like, if
Yeah.
like I can work half as much and it feels like I'm getting paid twice as much in a sense. And that sense of complacency, dude, it's a long way to fall once you lose like your aspirations, right? Like, such a
Yeah.
long way to fall. But then you got the other end where you're like, okay, well, let me learn, let me share what I'm learning. And then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with them, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and then you got to deal with people who just show up at your doorstep, and and try to tear you down. And I think that's one thing that I was facing early on when I started posting content on LinkedIn,
Oh
but
yeah.
not to the extent that you have. How do you deal with that, man? Like, how do you put up with some of the hate and aggression, and what do you got to say to those people out there that I feel like compulsion to do that to someone?
Yeah. I truly did not face any of that kind of backlash or anybody telling me that I can't do anything until very, very recently. And I think it's because now that my following is like a decent size, maybe people think that their comments won't be seen by me. Newsflash, I'm obsessed with LinkedIn. I see every single one of these comments that come in, and each one that came from this particular thread, if that's what you're referring to, the activity schema post, I saw every single one of the like 350 comments that came in on that post, where I was honestly just posting about something that I thought was cool, and in return got backlash saying that like I didn't know the fundamentals of data modeling. I didn't receive the right education. I would never learn. I would not even have the capacity to try to learn the fundamentals, even when I said, no, I'm willing to learn from you guys. And they'd be like, no, like you can't learn. We're not going to teach you. And I'm like, what do you want from me? And so that was the first time that I truly faced people who were way above me, looking down on me, telling me that like my idea was really stupid, I'm really stupid, and I should just stop posting. That was like that was my first brush with these haters. And it did take a couple of days for me to pull myself out of that hole. And, with the help of very supportive people, in our circle and in my personal circles, I was able to do that. And I think, but it was hard in the first place because people were saying, oh, like, you don't know these people. Why do you care what they say? And I remember I literally like cried to my boyfriend. I was like, why is it that these people who don't know me hate me? And like, am I just naturally hateable? Like, what is it about me? And like, that was when I was just like at the deepest end of my spiral. But then a couple days removed, I was like, okay, I can be rational about this. Like, I am putting myself out there, and making myself, more vulnerable than most to receive these attacks. But that doesn't mean that I should have received those kinds of attacks. And then in the days following that, like I had a couple other people reach out to me who were saying that my post was starting to become a topic of conversation within like the data engineering space, where people were saying that this kind of behavior was not acceptable at all, and that it was a good thing that I made this post to bring this kind of behavior to light, because apparently within the deep expert data circles, it's known that the data modeling topic can be kind of contentious. I didn't know that. I just somehow stumbled into it. But they were like, yeah, we have known this for a long time, and it's a good thing that you made that post and were vocal about it to bring that to light, because it's kind of an embarrassment. And I was like, oh, so I not only was I justified in feeling like this was getting out of hand, but also maybe I did somewhat of a good thing to like bring this forward, so like other people see that that kind of shit is not okay. So yeah, the things that happened afterward were what allowed me to be like, okay, I was being somewhat irrational with my reaction to it, but at the same time, the things that they were saying were not okay.
A good quote coming in here from somebody on LinkedIn, Jordan Green Hat, saying insecure boys can be particularly toxic when they see a woman who is higher on the social hierarchy than they are. That is true. I guess the insecure boys will come out of fully grown men.
Yeah, these were
reasons.
fully grown men.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, these like old 70-year-olds are like fighting over something that I said that I didn't even I put like literally 10 minutes of thought into making that post.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, should people be deterred from creating content and sharing what they're learning because of this type of fear? Like, because they've seen this, like, because I mean, I feel like there's enough people already telling themselves that they're not able to
yeah.
learn, that they can't figure something out, that this is beyond their comprehension, when really it's not. It just requires time and effort and patience.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you say to someone who might be sitting there thinking that, I'm never going to be able to learn this data science stuff? Like, this is beyond me. I'm not smart enough or whatever. What tips do you have for someone, or what words of encouragement?
Yeah. To answer your question about people who are wondering whether this should deter them from posting about what they've learned, like putting themselves out there on any social media platform to like try to at least create some kind of personal brand for themselves. That fear is what I want to address. I created a post or like last week or something, where I said that the two worst things that I thought could have happened to me from putting myself out there on social media have both happened. One is that nobody cares about my post and I look like an idiot. Maybe I get like, I don't know, 12 likes on a post. I'm like, wow, I'm so embarrassed. That was fear number one that I have been grappling with. Like, I still grapple with that. And then fear number two is like, oh, actually, people care so much that they resort to like attacking me and my character. Like, those are two very opposing things that are very real fears for me, and I know for a lot of people who are putting themselves out there on LinkedIn. And I've had both, and arguably the fear of people attacking you and trolling you, that one has probably hit worse. But I have come out from both of those things unscathed. I'm still alive. I'm still posting. Like, I never once considered maybe I should stop posting, because then one, that would give the trolls and haters exactly what they want. And then for the kinds of posts that like absolutely flop, I'm just like, meh, okay, I'll just try again. Like, maybe another post will do better, right? And so as you get more of these reps under your belt, you just like, I think you just learn to have it all roll off, and that's like roll off your skin. And that is something that I never thought I could say, because I care a lot about like what I post. I'm very, very meticulous about how I think I come off in posts, how I write every single word, every single emoji I put in there. Like, I care a lot. And it would get to the point where, like, a couple months ago, I was caring so much that it was just really robbing me of my mental health. But as I just kept doing it, I'm like, okay, it's just LinkedIn. I'm putting myself out there, not because like I want to be famous, not because I not even like I want a job. Like, I'm very happy where I am. I do it because the things I post can either help somebody or resonate with somebody. And like, that's a meaningful connection that I can form that if I didn't put myself out there, I wouldn't be able to do. It's like truly so rewarding. And like, even though I talk about how terrible that episode with those haters were, like, that was such an exception. It was like one out of the past like 500 posts that this has happened. It was definitely a one-off. And so I would say nobody should be scared of putting themselves out there. You will be fine either way, whether nobody cares or everybody cares. So you might as well do it. And then to answer your question about like how people fearing that they can't ever learn these things. I mean, yeah, I remember listening to some of your past episodes where you'd be talking to people who are super renowned in their field. And I'd just be like, I literally thought maybe one day I'll get there, but like, what if there's a possibility I will never get there? And you know what? Right now, I'm not there. I'm not at the level of a lot of the people that you bring onto your show, but I think I'm slowly inching my way there. Some days it's like a centimeter that I'm moving towards there. And some days it's a couple inches, but as long as I don't stop, I'm like, okay, I think it is within the realm of possibility to get there. Like, not getting there is not a possibility as long as I just commit to it.
I absolutely love that, dude. I absolutely love that. That's a great way to look at it. And for the record, the thing I look for people to come on the show is, does this person look like they're freaking awesome and would be a joy to talk to? So you are there, you're up there with everybody else
Freaking
I've had on
awesome.
the
Oh
show.
my God.
That is something that I actually struggle with, is a little bit of what you're describing there. I and for a long time, like this year, first half of this year, I was just so burnt out with posting because I was attaching too much, I think, of my self-worth to the reaction count.
Yeah.
Um, and that's like me caring too much about something I can't really control. I can't control if it gets like served up to people or if people react or not. Like, I can't control that. But all I can control is like my effort that I put into it. You definitely put in a lot of effort into your posts, like the
Yeah.
graphics and just the writing. It's been amazing.
It's
So
a
I'm
roller
wondering,
coaster ride. Yeah.
what opportunities have you created for yourself by even in the like facing that fear of everything you're describing about what if people don't like it, what if people like it too much, and everything you have gone through with your content? What opportunities have you created for yourself from doing this?
First and foremost, I am at a job that I love now. I I will admit that when I started writing on LinkedIn, it was not to make connections with people in the field. It was not to share my learnings. It was to get my next job. That was why in my last role, I knew I wasn't going to be there for the long term. So I was like, let me try this, LinkedIn writing thing. I've heard that having a personal brand pays dividends, because I don't want to be spending 3-4 months in my next job search, slinging out applications into the black void, left and right. And so I was like, let me try this posting thing. And when I did, I really went at it from an angle of, I'm just sharing what I'm learning in this journey of me entering this field that I'm super excited about. And along the way, I found other people who were super excited about the same things that I was. I never tried to be somebody who was like, this is how you should do it. I'm a pro. You should listen to me. I literally was just like this thing happened to me, haha, or just writing from an angle of Megan. And along the way, it gained some traction. But then going back to that initial goal of trying to land my next job, I within so 9 months into my last role, I posted a LinkedIn post that went pretty viral. And then a lot of hiring managers and recruiters started hitting me up just from that post. And that was day 3 of when I had officially started my job search. And on day 3, when I posted that viral post, I got like a dozen hiring managers messaging me. And one of them was my current manager, and she had messaged me because she saw my post and she just wanted to pick my brain on data projects. It wasn't even to hire me. And we were just talking. And at the end, I asked her what's Narrator up to, and she mentioned that they were just starting to hire for a data person. And I was like, and she asked me, do you know anybody who would be interested? And I said, me. And within 3 weeks, I had an offer from them. And now I'm at a job that I freaking love. Like, I don't know if any of my coworkers will be hearing this, but they already know that I really like this job. And I realize that every day, how lucky I am that the pieces fell into place to like allow me to be here. And it all started because I decided to put myself out there on LinkedIn. And also from that same post, got my LinkedIn Learning instructor opportunity from that. And those were like the big ones. But besides like those big opportunities, I would say just, coming across people who tell me that my posts are inspirational, or like that I should keep posting even though I'm receiving hate from these trolls. And I'm like, dang, y'all like don't know how much this keeps me going, because there are a lot of days where I want to quit and just be like, I should take a break from this app because I'm just spending too many hours on here, or like maybe I can take a break from posting this week. And not that that's bad, not that I do think that at some point I do have to take a break, but there are a lot of just nice, awesome people out there who are like, thank you for making your post. I'm like, thank me. I'm just writing words. Like, thank you for reading it. Like, I can't, why are you thanking me? So yeah, it's like the big and the small things.
What was kind of that an overview or nature of that post that opened up all these opportunities for you?
It was in all caps. If I reply to you in all caps, I'm not yelling at you. I'm probably multitasking in SQL.
Yeah.
And I think I do think it was kind of just luck because LinkedIn commented on it, and that's what brought it most of its likes. It was like, I think I was at like 6,000 or 7,000 likes, and then LinkedIn commented on it and then got it to like 50,000. So like if I tried to post it again today, probably wouldn't do that well. But yeah, a lot of LinkedIn is just luck.
So speaking of, multitasking and this LinkedIn course that you got that's on Python, R, and SQL, were you an expert in these topics or like really, really experienced in these topics before you started creating the course? Or were you kind of creating the course while you're learning it? How, like, where does where were you at on that spectrum? And
Yeah.
what,
I was just thinking about that today, how like I have been presented with a couple of, create course, like instructional design kind of opportunities. And I'm like, a lot of people are asking me to create courses that I don't necessarily have a specialty in, but when I think back to how I was creating the LinkedIn Learning course, like I was not an expert in SQL, Python, or R. I had just done a couple of projects in them. And then, so when I had taken that on, I remember thinking like having those imposter syndrome thoughts again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my content manager doesn't know. I don't actually know like that much about this stuff. Like I've just done a couple of projects here and there in all three languages. But like along the way, I was just using Google a lot and like doing my own research. And so I think what really excited me about the opportunity was that I would get to learn along the way and like learn those things that like are the fundamental things that you would learn about in a course, but that in projects, you don't think about like, oh, how, like, what is the exact syntax to create this method here? Like, so that opportunity, I was like, yes, I absolutely want to do this, even though I had that fear in the back of my head that I don't actually, how would I know enough to like be an expert at this and teach it? Well, that's where my own research came in. And so like, I think there's a limit to that. I can't just be teaching courses that I know absolutely nothing about, but I would say I probably had like at least 70% of the knowledge. And like the rest of the way, I was like, I will gladly use Google for that.
so, as we are talking about in the intro, like you love learning new things. Like I think that's kind of a given in this field. We're always having to
Yeah.
learn, which I think is beautiful. I think it's awesome that we get paid to learn, but learning it can get tough. It can get unfocused. It can be, maybe it's just me making it difficult on myself when I learn. But I'm wondering, do you have kind of a method or a framework, or like, let's say you're about to learn something new for the first time, like how do you go about that process?
I have tried always having at least two, like when I have the time to like really be learning. Right now I don't because I'm creating another LinkedIn Learning course, but like I best believe when I'm done with this course, I'm going to be a kid in a candy store going through like Coursera, Udacity, things like that. But so in periods like that where I know that I really want to dedicate my hours after work to learning, my method that has worked is making sure that I'm learning two things at once so that you don't get super bored with one and ditch your learning completely. if you have two things, it's easy to switch off. And that way it's like when you are sort of tired with one, you go to back to the first thing. And when you're tired with that, you go back to the second thing. And like that just accelerates my progress and my speed in learning them, because I'm like, okay, I'm done with this for today. Tomorrow, I know that I'm going to go to this, as opposed to being like, oh, I don't want to do that again. So it keeps things fresh, keeps things moving. And like, when I was taking my linear algebra class, I was also taking calculus too. So like that was an example of that. And it really helped me.
Are the two things that you're kind of trading between, are they like similar, topically similar? Are they completely different?
I think it could go either way. If they are somewhat similar, maybe that could be easier, but then I could also see the value of doing things that are completely different, just to make it really interesting for yourself to and you don't get bored. I don't think that there's like a hard and fast rule for this kind of method.
What's your kind of go-to like a medium of learning? Are you more like physical books, digital books, videos, courses? What do you prefer?
I prefer, I would say, courses. Makes it super easy to just, whip out your laptop and go through that. I keep telling myself I want to do books, like physical books. But the only time that I can get to that, like when I feel like I'm in the mood to read physical books, is right before bed. And because, that also really helps with my sleep. And I really like that. But then there are like a lot of nights, especially lately, where I'm like, I just want to be in front of Netflix. And then by the time it's bedtime, I'm like, I don't have time to whip out a book and, get all stimulated before bed. So I think it's easier for me to like go through a course with Netflix in the background and my on my laptop than like reading a book at night. So maybe one day I'll become a physical book learner, but so far it hasn't really worked that way.
What's currently in your continue watching queue on Netflix?
I have just started The Crown. I can't believe that it's taken me that long to give this show a try, because I love British royal family scandals and whatnot. So love The Crown. Bachelor in Paradise is back. That is a big one. And yeah, only those two. I cannot juggle more than like one or two shows. It's a lot to commit to, but these two shows right now in my rotation, I feel good about.
Like I can't watch shows that are more than like 2 or 3 seasons that have a ton of episodes. I just can't do that anymore. Like, I don't have any time. Like I'm like, dude, like if people recommend me a show and I'm like, oh my God, this is 7 seasons and each season has like 12 episodes. Fuck
The
that.
only the only show that I think I've gotten past like 2 or 3 seasons is Game of Thrones. And other than that, I think I've always fallen off by like the third or fourth season, when I'm like, this isn't even good anymore. You guys are just trying to like drag this out. So I get you.
Yeah, no, same here. Yeah, mostly when I'm watching Netflix is mostly the Office. Love that show. Shout out to some friends on LinkedIn. Some of our friends, mutual friends, Russell, Auntie, and Jasmia are all hanging out. Just want to read some of the nice stuff people are saying. Russell saying, share openly with full and honest intention to receive conflicting opinion, soliciting professional discourse. The few scenarios where toxicity rears its head, then identify intrinsic issues within systems and should hopefully be called out for it. Jasmine says, you absolutely are at that level. So many of the people you connect with inspire on LinkedIn. And Auntie says, hiya. So we're talking about reading books and stuff like that. You mentioned that you were a self-help book nerd. I'm wondering, where did that come from? Like, did you ever get to a point where you realized, holy shit, myself needs some help? Or was it always like something like, okay, well, just continuously improving myself. I always want to get better. Which one of those, if any of those, but yeah, let's hear about that.
It was during the time when I was transitioning into data. That was my first ever career switch. And that was such a life-changing period where I was like, I'm not only not happy in my job, I'm not happy in anything in life. And I feel like, and then when I finally got my new job, and could focus on things other than interviewing, I told myself that I would become a new person. And I remember starting a new diary on my very first day at that new job. And I was like, this is the start of a new me. And I can't be, I can't be neglecting what's on the inside. I've always been very active in lifting weights and going to the gym and whatnot. So like that's my physical side. And I think for a long, long time, I used to be a self-identified gym rat. Like I would neglect everything for the sake of my physical health. And not even like physical health, just like how I looked. And like I would not hang out with my friends because I was on some given diet. I would skip events because I knew I had to go to the gym and couldn't skip that gym session. And like for a long time, I justified that as, oh yeah, I'm so healthy. But in reality, so many other things were falling by the wayside, like my emotional health, mental health. And it all really came to a head when I was going through that 4-month long job search. And that's when going through that really tough time was when my gym priorities had to fall by the wayside. And I was like, oh, I don't have like this, what I used to think was my physical health or health in general anymore. Like that didn't bring me any joy anymore. And so I had to ask myself, like, how do I define being a good version of myself? Not even like the best version, just a good version of myself. And like the gym and my physical health really took a back seat. Not like I was sick or not like I couldn't go to the gym. Like I always have that, and that's a huge privilege for me. But then I'm like, maybe I should start paying attention to things other than just like how my body looks, how much I lift. And that's when I really started to read more, and especially self-help books. I was obsessed with them, and I couldn't even pick up a fiction book because I was like, no, like I want to be enriching myself from the inside out. And that period, I will say, continues to be like the most life-changing period that I've gone through. And I'm so happy that I did go through it because it made me reevaluate a lot of things, and self-help books were a part of that.
It's so crazy how like there's so many parallels between like your journey, what you're describing, and what I've personally gone through. I think it's probably more common than we might individually like think, because I was going through the same shit. Like I was just not happy at work, just feeling complacent, and just felt like I needed a change, needed something to change. And for me, it was starting with the self-help books, and the same mentality. Like I was even more extreme, dude. I was like, if this book is not written by a PhD and it's not backed by research, I will not read this book. And then I started like, okay, reading other people's like stories and stuff like that. But yeah, and
I think
that was
the one book that I got from your recommendation was the Almanac of
Naval
Ravikant. Yeah. So that one was a good one. And I was like, as I've been listening to your podcast episodes, I'm like, okay, Harpreet knows his books. So whatever he talks about, like I have to add that to my list.
Awesome. Well, I got my nice bookshelf there. I'm glad to have it back. Lost over 100 books when the basement flooded. But
oh no.
Yeah, but then I've recently started made the switch to just reading on my iPad through the Kindle app, because I've just kind of developed a new system for capturing knowledge for myself. It's tough with all the information coming at me, and I noticed that I just needed some way to organize my thoughts. So I got this system now where I'll read something on my iPad, and then I'll highlight it with the Apple Pen, and the highlights get synced automatically to this. I use Obsidian. Some people might use Roam or Notion or whatever, but it gets synced directly to my Obsidian Vault, and then from the Obsidian Vault I can then take the highlights and then further distill it down and reorganize it, and then try to come up with like a little takeaway for myself. And that's been
Very
really,
cool.
really helpful.
So are those highlights for all your books, or like more textbook kind of reading? Because it sounds like you're doing very intense like note taking.
Yeah. These would this will be everything from blog posts to actual ebooks, even Twitter threads. I do like when I come across a blog post or a Twitter thread or something, I'll save it to my Read It Later app, and the Read It Later app is called, in this case, I use Matter,
Oh,
and I'll have like a queue there. So the biggest thing is like I'm infinitely curious, just absolutely curious about everything. But that becomes distracting because all of a sudden now
yeah,
I've got 50 bookmarks that I never go back to look at. I've got like stuff in my Medium backlog that I never go back and
yeah.
look at.
Oh, I
So
know.
it forced me just to be more kind of discerning about what I put into my Read It Later app. um
I, you sound like you have a system, a very well thought out system in place. I don't. And I totally identify with that kind of ADD feeling of oh, I meant to get to this. I meant to get to this. I meant to learn this. I meant to read this. And especially these days, I've been feeling like I've just been all over the place in terms of where my brain is. So I do need some kind of system to organize all that, but I haven't
yeah.
gotten to that.
Yeah, it's just changing the nature of your relationship with information, I think is key.
I love that.
Just trying to be not being a toxic relationship with information. So just putting some filters up, and then just having that in place before you start adding stuff to bookmarks.
For
Um,
sure.
but going back to it was the self-help books. Was there one particular book, or maybe books that you read in like sequence that maybe helped you kind of
Yeah.
hack yourself?
The I don't know if it was a hack. And I say that because a hack, I think, is often sounds like a small thing, but the one book that I'm thinking about is Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. And it wasn't a hack. It was a full system overhaul. And it changed me completely because I have always been the type of person to think that I can't do something because I'm not made for it. My brain is not wired that way. I'm just not meant to do things like that. And reading that book was so monumental because I was like, wait, where do all of those limiting beliefs come from? Like, who taught me that? And it made me think back when I was younger, or like, still a bushy-eyed, bushy-tailed, bright-eyed student, when the world was just so much, less complicated. And, I used to think that I could do all of these things. And somewhere along the way of growing up and going to college and being thrust into adulthood, I forgot that. And so that book really made me reevaluate why and how I arrived at the conclusion that I couldn't do certain things. And specifically, I mean, I used to think that I could never code, I could never do anything sciencey, anything STEM related. In college, I always told myself, I coding just doesn't stick with my brain. I'm not meant for that. And that book just really opened my eyes to the fact that I was the only one who was telling myself that I couldn't do that. And it was such a like one of those aha moments in my life. And that book I credit it with so many of the changes that I've made in my life.
Beliefs are a motherfucker, man, aren't they? Like beliefs will have you thinking that it is absolute truth, but in reality, beliefs are just a choice. You can choose.
Mm,
You could actually choose what you want to believe. So
yeah,
why not choose a filter for your life that is useful, that is going to maximize your happiness and other people's
yeah,
happiness around you? I mean, yeah, beliefs, man, they're a motherfucker, dude. There's
love
actually
that.
there's an interview I did with Dave Gray, who wrote a book called Liminal Beliefs, and we just talked about belief systems and belief structures. So if you're listening, check that one out.
I will
Dave
check that out.
Dave Dave Gray. Uh, that book as well, like Growth Mindset, like the Mindset by Carol Dweck. When I first got introduced to that concept of growth mindset, I was an online course, data science dream job. Like it's such a trip thinking back at this now. Over 4 years ago, I remember getting Kyle McHugh as a guy, and got into his email funnel, and like just to contrast now, it's like 1,300 bucks on a course, whatever. I do it without thinking, like it's just whatever.
Yeah.
But back then, I was like talking to my wife. I was like, man, $1,300, holy shit, dude! Like that's a lot of money in Canadian money. Like this is
Yeah.
like damn, like should I do this? Like God, what do you think? And she's like, yeah, go for it. And like enrolled in that course, and then he talked about the growth mindset in like one of the first few modules, and
Mhm.
it just completely changed the way I think about everything, and just like just
Yeah.
shook me, and then like shook me and dismantled me, and I was just a pile of rubble, ready to just like reinvent
Yeah.
myself and build myself back
And
up.
like I don't think that anything that is said in that book is any one thing in that book is particularly like crazy or out there or earth shattering, but it just, yeah, it slowly dismantles you
Mhm.
and gets you to reevaluate things. And like I think that's the beauty of the book. It's like everything in there is so subtle, but the more you think about it, the more you're like, oh shit, like that's actually kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was that book. Then immediately after, I read Grit, and then The
Oh,
Power of
I
Habit. Those three books in
never
succession.
finished Grit. I have right here actually.
Oh, it's a good one.
I've been halfway through for a very long
Nice,
time. I need
nice.
to do it. I need to get back to it.
That's a great book. Like, yeah. So I read Mindset, Grit, and Power of Habit, and then in succession. Then something about that like just made me just change. Like I hacked my own brain somehow. And you couple that with a little bit of wisdom from Naval Ravikant, and any success that I've you know that's a
Yeah,
success, because I'm way better off than I was a few years ago. I don't even care. Like if
yeah,
it's on a relative scale, it might not be successful, but holy shit, I'm like, dude, like I've
yeah.
got it made, man.
I
Like, how do
love
you?
that for us.
Yeah, like how do you? Like, do you ever feel like that? Like that's the thing about content creation and being a creator is like you always feel like you're on this never-ending hamster wheel, right? Where you're like, oh, I've got this audience, I've built this thing. Like, shouldn't I be doing with something with it? Like, wait, hold on, should I be a millionaire by now? Like I got like,
Yes.
right? Like, do you
You and
feel?
I have talked about this before, but like now, yeah, dude, especially these days, I've been thinking a lot about it. A lot of a lot of thoughts of shoulds. Um, hey, I have 38,000 followers. I should do something with this. Like I should monetize this. I should make a side hustle out of it. And yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I want to, but I'm also really happy at my job and like this current balance that I have with creating a LinkedIn post per day and doing my job for the rest of the day. Like it's a really nice balance. And I'm like, do I want to take on the work of creating more content for a different medium, trying to figure out the algorithm there, trying to like I don't know, maybe start my own business one day. I don't know. And yeah, I don't have an answer for you for that. I have been thinking a lot about that.
Mhm.
And it comes with the territory of having a decent amount of followers. And you just hear people, I like, especially this past week, I've gotten a lot of people telling me, like, oh, you should do this, you should create a YouTube channel, you should start a podcast. And I'm like, I know, but I'm also kind of lazy sometimes. I don't
Yeah,
want to. So it's like
yeah.
shoulds versus wants.
That is something I've been really, really trying hard, and I think I've been somewhat successful at doing, is removing the word should from my self-talk, and even saying it to other people. Like if I catch like myself shooting somebody, like shoulding with somebody, I'm like, nope, try to apologize. And if you ever catch me shooting you people out there,
Shoulding you.
yeah,
That
just call
sounds
me out.
so
Yeah,
so terrible when you put it in a verb form like that.
yeah. What's your process like for creating a LinkedIn post? Like, what's your ideation and then execution process look like?
Yeah, it's there's no system. I will be working one day and I will I will like for example, yesterday I was going through, I had a coding session with my CEO and my manager. We were just putting our heads together, trying to crack this query and figure out how to get our end result. And it was just 45 minutes of us just riffing. And it was such a beautiful moment. And in that moment, I was like, ooh, that would make for a great LinkedIn post. So I whipped out my Google Docs app on my phone and just jotted down some words. I'd be like, okay, I'll get back to this in like 2 or 3 weeks, make a post out of it. But then like, sometimes I will have like this doc is just a long list of bullet points of random words that have come to my brain while I'm just doing the randomest things. And there will be older bullets that I'll be like, oh yeah, like I forgot about this one, so I'll post about that today. Like there's no system. I think I am good at social media in that I have been a consumer for a very long time. So I can think from the perspective of my audience. And I think that's key. And so just being in that habit of, oh, I'm going through this moment and I'm like, ooh, I think my readers will like that, or they will resonate with it, or they can learn something from it. And I just jot it down into a Google Doc and pull from there.
So you're thinking from like the perspective of a consumer, like in this case, the audience is data people, data professionals. Like, what is it that data professionals, like, what do they like? What tone do they enjoy? I guess, when you put yourself in their situation, what checklist are you kind of going through your head?
Yeah. First of all, I think that data people love SQL, and that kind of content always does well. That one is a gimme. But besides that, I think stories about solving problems, stories about like like a day in the life, stories about like how I started. Those are pretty common topics that I know will do well. And then if it's like more of an out there kind of post that I haven't posted about before, I'll usually post that on days that I know I won't get a lot of traction. I'll just be like, that's my throwaway post, but I had to say it. So it's like, I have these buckets of like, okay, come up stories, SQL, and day in the life. Like, what is it like to work as a data scientist? I think those are like my 3 big buckets. And then I'll have maybe like something funny or some kind of reaction that I had to something that's going on. Those are like 4 buckets that I work with. And then I post 4 times a week. So I try to do 1 day for each of those topics. And that's how it works out.
So talking about out there, I'm intrigued by this. What's considered out there?
I would say out there would just be anything that I don't normally post about, like, things outside of work. Like, hey, like I what it's like to be a homeowner. I think about these things all the time. Like, I have just moved into my house and it's like homeownership is so hard. Like, I just wanted to make a post about that because I've been thinking about it. And I didn't think that anybody would care. I just wanted to make the post because I care about it. And then, or maybe like, reaction to the haters. Like I created a post about that because I just wanted to get my thoughts out there. Like, I was just so pissed off and I was like, I want to make a post about this. I don't care if I get less than 100 likes on this, or a post about like me lifting weights. I know that does not belong on, a lot of people will say it doesn't belong on LinkedIn, but like, fuck it, I care about it, so I'm going to put it out there. And like, I've had some comments that on these out there posts are like, this is not the place for it, or like, why are you posting about this? And I'm like, because I want to. It's my page, so I do it. And I've gotten to that. I think I've gotten to that place where I'm like, because I want to, I'll do it. And like, I shouldn't care about what other people say about it.
Yeah. I'm so glad you got there to that point. Like this we need more of that, right? We need more of that on LinkedIn. People, I think the people who think that it's only for like professional stuff or getting
Oh
a
yeah.
job just don't understand like what it's really
Oh
for.
no.
It's meant to
Oh no.
connect people. It's a social media site. It's meant to connect people and you make connections. And I think you can't make connections with just like one side of someone. Like I try to get to know
Yeah.
people holistically, I guess, in a sense. Um, and that's like how
Yeah.
you really make those connections, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on that. LinkedIn, at the end of the day, is a social media site, not just like a job seeking site. So I could go on and on about like how you and I probably receive so many messages asking for a job in their first message to us. Like, that's not what this site is for. Like, it's a social media site. Like, read the room. That's not what this is for. But anyway, I digress.
No, I'd love to hear it, man. I'd love to hear it, more of it, because this sounds like it's make for interesting conversation here. But I don't get as many hit like job requests or whatever ever since my title changed from data scientist,
Yeah.
which has been nice because I used to get too many messages. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, talk about that, man. I want to hear your hot takes on this.
Oh, I could go off. Like, there are, I, I've debated whether I should make this into a post, but like, there are certain messages that I will never respond to. And in fact, if you've caught me on a wrong day, I will immediately remove you as a connection. Um, if like in your first message, you ask me if I know of any roles that are open for nothing related to my current role. I'm like, how? Like, I remember one time somebody caught me on the wrong day and I was like, has this method worked for you? Tell me. Like, does this work for you? And like, I don't think he understood the question. He's like, can you help me or not? And I was like, oh, like the entitlement. It's like, it's not even the fact that it's not, it's not even the fact that, you know, you shouldn't be doing that because it's not like common courtesy, but like also it's just the entitlement. Like, how am I entitled to help a stranger out when I don't know anything about you? Like, how can I vouch for you? And I truly don't know if it's like, you know, it could be a cultural like misalignment, you know, maybe in some cultures it's more appropriate to do so, but like I personally believe I can't do anything for you if I don't know you. And I'm not going to put myself out on I'm not going to go out on a limb to do this for a stranger. And Lord knows I need all the time that I'm just so strapped for time these days. Like, I'm not going to go out of my way, spend all this time to like do this for a stranger. I'm sorry. So like, I don't know, customize your message or something, because
Mhm.
I have no patience for that kind of stuff these days. And I don't feel guilty for not responding at all.
And some of the other, you know, type of stuff that I've had seen you and our friends, for example, Carly, have to deal with. Speaking of like inappropriate stuff to say and do on LinkedIn, um, like is it hard being is it hard being a woman on LinkedIn? I guess like that's kind of
Yeah, I would say I didn't believe that it was until very recently. Like, I truly didn't think that in the 21st century this is a topic of discussion. Like, I was like, no, I've never experienced any kind of discrimination in my life. Like, nobody's ever been mean to me, but it's really when you put yourself out there and you suddenly amass a lot of followers that the creeps and the sexists and the mansplainers will come out of the woodwork. And I think I avoided them for a long time. It wasn't until I probably hit like 25,000 or 30,000 that I started to see that I was not immune to this kind of behavior from men, some women. But I was like, you know, up until that point, I really thought that if I never posted anything controversial, if I had exclamation marks in all of my responses to comments and was super nice, put smiley faces everywhere, I would be immune to this stuff. And I wasn't. It's a sad reality that like so many women I know who are content creators do have to face this. And yeah, I truly thought I was the exception for a long time, because I was so nice. I thought wrong. You can be as nice as you want, and somebody will find something to pick on.
Yeah, I'm supremely disappointed in like the behavior that I've seen a lot of guys have towards your post, some of our other friends,
Yeah,
Carly, Jasmine, for example, and just all that negativity. It's like, why? Like, that's not like
I know.
we see where you work. This is like the most public profile of yours. It's like you're doing it so brazenly too. It's just like, what the
I
hell,
know.
people?
And like it's also just like, are you serious? Like you hate this so much that you're willing to type out this novel and like waste your finger energy on me? I don't know you. I like also will not give you the satisfaction of a response. Like like how do you care this much that you're gonna waste this much time? It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, yeah. I took an approach. Like, I guess I'm known for just being mean. Like, I'm not known for being mean, but like people just stopped like commenting that negative shit on me because I just shamed them in
Good,
public so much.
good.
It was great, dude. I loved it. I just love,
If
yeah.
anybody does not know that yet and they do come to your post and say anything mean, like I will gladly come in like a shark. Like
Yes.
I will bully them.
Date Avengers assemble, man, for sure.
Yes, exactly. The first person I usually go to is Tom
Mhm.
when I get hate like that, and I'd be like, Tom, what do I do? He'd be like, I will assemble the Date Avengers,
Mhm.
and then he'll give me like more personalized advice as to how to deal with it. So shout out to Tom.
Yeah, dude, we got such a supportive community of content creators that we get to chat with. I wish I was more
Yeah.
active in that chat, but I love seeing the threads when I do log in. So for people out there, like that might want to start dabbling in this content creation stuff. I know there's a lot of up and coming people out there. Like, I see you guys. Yeah, I just unfortunately can't remember everyone's name, but there's a few people I just see pushing out such good content. It'd be cool to kind of find ways for them to support each other somehow. Like, do you have any tips on how to build like a community of creators? Have you been able to do that or?
Yeah, I mean, I am involved in our group chat and at least one other one. I think that's a very easy way to connect with creators, but I think even before those I was included in those groups, I knew of everybody at least, if not like I know them and have chatted with them before I was added to these groups. And so it's like social media, unfortunately, like in the content creation space, can be kind of transactional. And I have a point to this, but it it can be very transactional. You get the kind of engagement on your posts that you give out. And so with that mindset, in the beginning of creating my content, I was commenting a lot, just like receive engagement back. But then in the process, like I did find posts from people that I really did resonate with. And a lot of times, and now I would like to think a lot of the comments that I leave on other people's posts or like people that I message, it is truly because I find their content very cool, or I resonated with something that they posted. So it's like it started off very transactional, but then it did lead me to connecting with people that I really vibe with, like yourself. And so that really made me realize, okay, I don't need to be this transactional. Like I'm literally using social media for its purpose, which is to be social.
Mm.
And so if you do it for long enough, you'll find your circle of people, you'll find the posters who you resonate the most with, and naturally your circle will come. But you do have to like leave comments out there, and sometimes it will feel like you're forcing yourself to do that, because I don't think that going out and commenting on people's posts is a very natural feeling. But you do have to do that, for people to notice you and to start forming those connections.
Would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
If you had asked me 2 years ago, I would definitely say an introvert. Uh, LinkedIn has definitely brought me out of my shell. When I started this job, or my first job search into data, that's when I discovered what coffee chats were. And so really started just talking to a lot of people with the help of LinkedIn. And then as I've gotten deeper into this career and people have started asking me for coffee chats, I don't even pay it a second thought. Like, I'm just like, oh yeah, like I'm just gonna chat with this person, we're just gonna talk. Whereas if you had asked me 2 years ago, I'd be like, oh my god, I don't want to talk to this stranger, I have to like get made up and I have to like put on this front. I don't want to like feel drained from being social. That was me 2 years ago. But that LinkedIn, and also just COVID, being trapped in my house, and I realized that me wanting to stay in my shell versus me being forced to stay inside and not talking to everybody, I was like, well, like I'm being forced right now to stay indoors, like, but now I don't want to do that. So 2020, 2021, I think a combination of LinkedIn and COVID happening was what really brought me out of my shell. And so today I'd say I'm an ambivert.
Nice. I'm still a complete introvert, and it's tough, especially with a career in developer relations and just kind of being so public facing like this.
Yeah.
Um, uh, it's challenging, but I'm laughing because talking about getting like made up for the camera and all that stuff, dude. For like the longest time, I would be dyeing my beard and like putting touch up on like the Zoom features, and now it's like I don't
Oh
even
my
care.
gosh.
Don't even dye my beard anymore. Don't even use a touch up feature. I'm just like, this is it, man. This is
You.
me.
No, I won't say that I don't believe you when you say you're an introvert, because I know how that feels to be like, to tell people that you are an introvert and people say, oh, I don't believe you, and I'd be like, but I actually am. So I won't say that I don't believe you, but I would say you hide it really well, because on your happy hours, I don't know how you moderate so many people and have interviews like this, and of course being in DevRel. I'm just like, wait, you are the least introverted person that I would expect to know. But yeah, I think you're doing a great job, despite being not that it's bad to be an introvert, but it's a
Yeah,
balance.
yeah. Like I think I thrive in like these smaller group kind of situations. You send me to like for example, I was at Intel Innovation Conference, and uh, this was September 27th, 28th, whatever, in San Jose,
Mhm.
and one of the nights was just like this, this huge party thrown by Intel, which is amazing.
Oh God. Did you
And
have any friends with you?
no friends, like nothing, like just awesome DJ, free drinks, free food, and everything. And I just sat by my corner in the corner, like most of the time by myself, just like kind of chilling. And it's funny. And then like the next day, I went out to Ben Rogojohn's event. Sal Data guy had some event in San Francisco, so
Yeah.
I went out there and I grabbed a drink and I just go straight to a corner. And Ben walks up to me, he's like, "Wait, dude, are you being a loner? Like, what's going on with you?" And it's like that's just like my natural kind of thing. Like I'll go and I'll first find a corner and just stand there and just kind of like scope the situation and people watch.
You're better than me. Like, I wouldn't even go to the party. When
Yeah.
you said a party and you were alone, I had goosebumps. I'd be like, I would not go in the first place. So I wouldn't even be in that predicament.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just part of the job, man. I actually literally have
Yeah.
to go to these things, even if I don't want to. Um, yeah. So been a good chat. I know we're running up a little bit over on time. You still got a few minutes
Yeah.
for the random round and everything.
Yes.
Shout out to everybody that was joining us on LinkedIn. Jasmine is still out there. Russell, thanks for hanging out, y'all. So I guess my kind of typical question before going into the random round, it's 100 years in the future. What do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for somebody who gave a shit about all the things that she did. I think, like you said, you have a lot of different what's it, like hyperfixations, or like things that you care about. And I also am somebody like that. Like, I have a lot of different hyperfixations, but for all of them, I care deeply about each one of them. And it's almost to my detriment how deep I go into these like rabbit holes, right? But for each phase of my life or thing that I care about, like I give myself 100% into it, and I never want that to change. So yeah.
Let's go into the random round here. This probably would have been a question better before the random round, but we'll do it now. So you made the transition from the financial world to tech. So from big companies to startups. What was like the biggest like shock when you made that move?
I was the most shocked by how much I love it here. I think when I know that before I got the offer to come to the startup, I was like, I am probably not going to take this. I don't see myself working at a startup. I'm not a startup person. And that's the fixed mindset coming in, thinking that, I'm somebody who loves routine. I love doing things the same exact way every single day. I like predictability. So that means that I can't make it at a startup. And, coming to this startup, all of those beliefs have gone out the door. I truly enjoy how much of a say I have in what is done at this company. Like I have true ownership over the things that the projects that I take on. Like I told you right before this call, I was on a customer call where I was presenting, and for this project, my manager was just like, yeah, like you can just take ownership of this. And I was like, ownership? What's ownership? Like I have never been anything but bottom of the totem pole, where I give my work to levels and levels and levels of people above me. And I thought that's what I would enjoy. But yeah, being able to take ownership of my own projects and like steering the direction of strategic things, it's been amazing. And just being part of a company where everybody has to believe in the mission to keep the ship afloat is such an awesome feeling that I never had working at any big company. Because at these big companies, it's like when you get new work or new clients or new customers, I'm like, great, like that just means more work for me. But here, when we get a new client, like everybody celebrates, like it's a big deal. And I'm like, fuck yes. Like I can take on more. Like I want to take on more because I want our company to succeed. And that kind of belief in the mission it just changes everything.
The accountability, man, that is such a potent thing that I've only recently got. In the last couple jobs, just that ownership you're talking about, that accountability,
Yeah.
because that's how you build that credibility, right?
Yeah.
Because then now you've got the accountability, you got credibility, and now you're sharing it through your learnings on social media. And now you've got leverage behind that, and so now you've got like the trifecta of what you need to be out, go out there and just essentially win, like no matter what, right? Like,
best believe I will be making a LinkedIn post about that, because like I feel proud of myself for having brought this project from start to end. But I know a lot of people can relate to that kind of triumphant feeling of being like, oh, like I did that, like all of that. So
love that, Megan. Let's go to the actual random question generator.
Ooh.
Yes, here it is. The first one is, what talent would you show off in a talent show?
My whistling.
Can we hear a little bit of that?
No, we need to have a song on, and I would need to get my face in like proper form. So right now I can't, but you guys have to take my word for it. Like,
all right,
my whistling has gotten so good these days because I live alone now, so I can just whistle whenever I want. And like my parents, I don't have parents around to be like, stop whistling, you're calling the devil. So it's a Chinese thing apparently, but now I can whistle to my heart's content.
Dude, trust me, it's the same thing with like Indian parents. Like I'm Punjabi, my parents say the randomest like things. Like
I know,
it's just
right?
like, where the hell did you pick that?
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
what are you talking about? Like they're telling my kid not to like, stop shaking his, you should tell him stop moving his foot. It's bad for him. I'm like, he's walking. He needs to move his foot.
Like if I'm like sitting and like I'm just like fidgeting. Yeah, my parents hate that.
Yeah. If you had to change your name, what would you change it to?
If I had to change my name, if I had to change my name, I would change it to a name that starts with maybe D, because then it would be like something data, and like it would have a nice ring, and it could make for like an awesome like YouTube name or like a website name, but it's just like Megan, and I don't really know what goes with Megan.
Machine learning Megan. How about that?
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, actually, like I've thought about that. Like my initials are ML, and
Yes.
machine learning is ML, but like I can't come up with a catchy phrase using that. So maybe one day.
There's once upon a time I was actually like on the verge of legally changing my name, and reflecting on it now, it's probably so
What were
backtrack
you gonna
like
change it to?
so a little bit of backstory. This is in 2011,
Oh
2012,
my.
right?
Yeah.
I was applying for, trying to get into actuarial sciences, in the middle of grad school, and passed a couple exams, and I was trying to get in, and
Mhm.
nobody would call me back. Like all the resumes I sent out, nobody called me back. And I was
Hmm.
so convinced it's because I had a foreign sounding name.
Mm.
Somebody like implanted the idea in my head. Never mind the fact that my resume looked like shit. I had no skills, a poor GPA, and there's like no reason for anybody to hire me on paper. Like, never mind all those true facts. It was my name that's what I thought
Okay,
was
but
holding
I
me
think
back.
that's a valid fear. Like, a lot of people can have implicit biases and when they look at resumes, and that's why there's the tip that you shouldn't put your picture on there, right?
Mhm, mhm,
But yeah, people who have I have heard of the fact that if you have hard to pronounce names or a foreign name, like that could sometimes count against you. And so I'm like, well, what stops you from just calling yourself something different
mhm.
at the header of your resume?
Yeah. I mean, I hope 2022, like obviously that this should be
Yeah.
different, right? But yeah, the name, I was about to change my real name is Harpreet Singh Sahota, and I was gonna change my name to Harper Singson.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I was gonna
No,
change it
you
to
are
that.
a Harpreet. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm so glad you didn't do that. You are not a Harper Singh. Harper
More
Singh Sahota.
most recently I started more recently rather, I started just reclaiming like the full name Harpreet, because I used to just tell people call me Harp. Now I'm like, yeah, my name's Harpreet. It's not that hard. It's two syllables. Like Nathaniel
Yeah.
and Jonathan have more syllables than my name. Harpreet, like it's two syllables. You could say it.
Yeah,
Um,
as you should.
what's the best thing you got from one of your parents?
Ooh, this is gonna sound really boring, but my mom invested in a 529 account for me when I was born. And that funded my college. So and then some. And so now I don't have any student loans, never have. And I think I'm so thankful that my mom had the foresight to do that. And she actually,
Mhm.
like, I don't know how, because she didn't have finance knowledge, but she picked out some great stocks that just like blue chip tech stocks that blew up in 2020 and 2021. And I had taken it out just in time. And I was like, thank you, mom, for your
Yeah,
foresight, like almost 30 years ago.
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Uh, that's like, were your parents immigrants from China? Or were they born here or?
My mom has been here since she's 10,
Mhm,
so she at least knew what, like, she is somewhat savvy in terms
mhm.
of personal finance.
Yeah.
Whereas like a lot of my cousins and family members, like they don't have parents who created a 529 account for
Mhm,
them,
mhm,
because they came later from like Vietnam and Hong Kong.
mhm,
So yeah, my mom gets full credit for her financial savviness. And then my dad he's from Vietnam, and he's not college educated, so like his English is somewhat
mhm.
broken. But that keeps me close to the culture, because I'm forced to speak
Yeah.
Chinese to them
Nice.
in some capacity.
Last random question here. Uh,
Yes.
when was the last time you changed your opinion about something major?
Mm, something major. I would say going back to, my beliefs about what I can and cannot do. I really thought that I did not like to solve hard problems, couldn't do anything hard or difficult. It turns out I just didn't care. So it's like not caring versus not being able to do something are two very different things. And when I found something that I cared about, I'm like, oh wait, so I'm not a lazy thinker. I'm not dumb. I can do these things. I just need to care first. And that was the last time I changed my mind about something big.
What a good thing to change your mind about. Probably the most
Yeah,
useful thing to change your mind about.
for sure.
Y'all, thank you for joining us live from Mego's Lair. Megan, thank you so much for taking
Could you
time out
read
of the
that?
schedule. Yeah,
Oh my gosh, you
yeah.
have good eyes.
Thanks for joining us, man. Really appreciate you taking time to come onto the show.
This was amazing. Thank you so much for having me on a show that I've listened to for so long. And yeah, I kid you not. I think one day I was like, maybe one day I will be able to speak on Harpreet's show, specifically Harpreet's show. And you've made my dreams come true. So
Yeah, far too kind. You are far too kind. And ties in nicely with my closing phrase here, my friends. Remember, you got one life on this planet. Why not try to do something big? Cheers, everyone.